Oh boy, ammo stereotypes. Look, I knew Phantom Forces had a lot of ammo stereotypes and conversions, but after writing the script for this video, it's safe to say that Stylus went too far. There are just too many goddamn ammo variants in this game, man. It's just unhealthy at this point. So that's why I decided to split this episode into a two-parter. But with that said, the ammo a person uses is one of, if not the most telling thing about them as a player, next to optics of course. Although before we get into all that, I gotta do the obligatory disclaimer. These stereotypes do not apply to everyone. They have reasons for existing, but there will always be exceptions. For example, if the stereotype for the Kozaku site is it's exclusively used by hypersweats, that doesn't necessarily mean you actually are a hypersweat, but that's basically what everybody thinks about you when you use the Kozaku site. Okay, are we good now? Have people understood? Okay, cool. So, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Now, there are two types of people who use 2-3, but they kind of both fall under the same category. The first is the M16A3 mains who have been living under a rock and haven't realized that 2-3 doesn't give you the 40-round mag anymore. And then there are those who used to use this for the 40-round mag, but have since shifted motive to make a totally original zero recoil setup featuring everybody's favorite red dot, the Kozaku sight. Or you're that one psychopath who uses 2-3 to intentionally ruin the M4A1 and the M16A4. Now, the majority of AP users are usually tryhards, running this on, you guessed it, the M16A3, but there are a few subcategories of AP users. The first one is literally every single competent LMG user. These people look at their near 2-stud penetration and just go, more. Then there are the assault rifle mains who use this solely because every wall in this game is coincidentally just above 1 stud thick, and they're really starting to get mad about not being able to literally wallbang anything. HK416. Just joking, I know at least half of you just typed out your hollow point setups in the comments, but you know what? While you're at it, don't forget to leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, enough channel plugging. Now there are 4 main types of hollow point users. The first one is those who use it on guns that usually 4-shot kill like the Scar L or M16A3. Then there are those who run it on the PPSH with the Oberst barrel and remove stock for the you-know-what setup. Next up are the AK and / or RPK mains who are completely oblivious to the fact that hollow point no longer makes their gun 2-shot limb. And lastly, you have those who put on pretty much everything you shouldn't. Like, you know those people who usually use hollow point to make certain guns 3-shot? Yeah, well, these room temperature IQ people have the mindset of, the higher the damage the better. And so proceed to use this on guns like the M4A1, AK family, or literally any battle rifle. Now moving on to ammo types basically no one uses. Starting off with Tracerless, a perfectly cool concept that unfortunately got the short end of the stick. Not only are the tracers still perfectly visible, just slightly different color, but it increases recoil, or in other words, it's basically the 7.62 conversion but with no damage increase whatsoever. And speaking of cool concepts that sadly are worthless, the silent ammo is pretty much nothing but a meme, only used on one very specific gun for one very specific setup, also known as the MC51 with oil filter. And honestly, it's a huge shame because the silent ammo offers a cool gimmick, but sadly the downsides just aren't worth it at all. The Plus P is commonly used by PDW tryhards. They are usually semi-competent at the game as most PDW users have a combined IQ of -24. This extends to pistols as well. If you see somebody using this on pistols, you know they mean business. So you rarely see this used, but rest assured this person will go for wallbangs approximately 120% of the time. And also due to his absurdly high penetration, he plays every match as if it was a warehouse match. You know, ever since the rework, I barely see people using this anymore. This is because it's generally not as great as it used to be after the whole shotgun rework. But despite heavily falling out of favor, there are still a few shotgun hypersweats around running this, still determined to ruin the fun for everyone in the server. People who still use Birdshot use it exclusively on the Stevens double barrel on burst for the outdated 1000 damage shotgun set. Either that or they are that one person who's still determined to lag out anybody with a low-end computer until it explodes. Did anybody ever use this? You know, I don't think I've seen a single soul on planet Earth use this. Like, seriously, not a single soul. And understandably so, because this ammo type, to put it lightly, is shit. The Slugs ammo is a 50-50. See, this is either used by people who don't take the game even remotely serious, or the most terrifying type of CQC quickscoper in the entire game. And the setups between the two are quite similar. However, the tryhards tend to run Paradox Choke, while the memers usually reside with either Long Barrel or Loudener. Oh, and if you see somebody using this on the Stevens Double Barrel, vote kick them immediately. Alright, so this is usually run on the Thumper flare gun setup for a bit of extra power, but sometimes you have the more unusual Thumper mains who have devoted their entire lives into turning this into an effective, in big quotation marks, DMR/BFG-ish gun. Alright, so for the cannon ammo types, you can pretty much forget about everything that isn't the cannonball and .50 Beowulf blanks, because that's pretty much the only thing cannon mains use. So similar to the cannon, you don't have to worry about seeing any of the ammo types that aren't the harpoon. Seriously, most people just use the KS23M stock, as the other options aren't that great, so that only leaves the memers behind with all the KS23M ammos, and they always choose the harpoon. Always. All Thumper ammos in 10 words or less. Demoman TF2.
You like jazz?
Why are you here? Did you really need the extra damage? Actually decent conversion. Why and how are you even available? I think Stylus forgot about you when designing the Thumper. How and why? We've covered this one already. The extended magazine is a very broad attachment available on a lot of automatic weapons and the M107. Regardless, people who use extended magazines on automatics are usually competent mid-rankish players trying their hardest to hit a 60 kill game. And now we're getting into more specific extended magazines, starting off with people who run the Glock extended mags. These people love the Glock, and swear by their lives that the Glocks are the best pistols in this game, although they also usually run the Glock stock and some sort of auto-clicker. Now, contrary to the name, people who run this usually aren't the greatest players around, but they do have a sense of humor most HK416 mains are missing nowadays. But with that said, the few people who use this are either memers who combine this with Ratshot, or yet another challenger grinding day in and day out for the Zip CEO position. So there are two types of Makarov extended mag users: the generics who pre-buy the 80 round drum, and the pure Soviet-hearted chads who run the 12 round magazine and have sworn their body and soul to the mother round. The people who choose to run the 60 round drum over the 40 round extended magazine on the Type 20 are one of two different people. Either they are A, people who have the mindset of the more bullets the better, completely disregarding speed loss, or B, that one guy who took the term LMGs are glorified assault rifles and heavily challenged it. People who use this are generally newer players who most likely just unlocked the P90 and still have the classic new player mindset of putting everything free on their gun at the start, resulting in amazing setups like double flashlight 30 round P90. So unlike the previous stereotype, people who run the 35 round PBSH magazine only have one single goal in life, and it's to combine the Oberst barrel and hollow point while going 300 miles per hour thanks to the removed stock speed boost. So if you see somebody running this, then you've encountered the endangered Remington 870 main. Still around mid-rank, these people are the very few survivors of rational thinking who still use middle-of-the-road guns instead of the meta.
Oh, these are pretty cool bananas.
People who use the 5.56 can be split up into two categories: those who don't use it on the ECR and those who do. People who run 5.56 on not the ECR are usually just your average mid-rank, meanwhile those who do use 5.56 on the ECR should be legally required to uninstall themselves from the internet. Oh, and side note, if you use this on the X95, just admit you got that idea from Oscar. The 7.62 conversion. This age-old conversion has three main types of people who run it. First, we have those who use it to turn traditionally 4-shot kill guns into 3-shot kill guns like the C7. Then we have those who use it for the classic meme setups where you turn a completely random gun into an AK, like for example the Scar H. And lastly we have those who run it on the Type 58, which is by far the most annoying thing to fight against. Okay, quick question. Why is everybody who uses 9mm conversions so goddamn sweaty at the game? Like, I know Phantom Forces is full of no-life hypersweats already, but these people take it to a whole new level and completely change the identity of the guns it's available on. Like, you can go from the rank 16 Scar L user who probably pre-bought this because of Fortnite and has no idea how to play the game, to a person whose sole purpose is to have one single game that'll make even Spirals shed a tear. Alright, so there are two types of sharps users in this world. Those who use it on the M4A1 because Le Oscar, or the absolute nightmare that is Sharp's Colt LMG. Seriously, remember how everybody joked that LMGs were just glorified assault rifles? Well, Stylus made it a reality and the outcome is just as bad as you can imagine. It takes everything bad about LMGs and chucks them right out the window in exchange for a slightly smaller magazine. So people who run 300 Blackout are either G36 family stands or that one AUG A3 user who pre-bought this without taking its absolute horrid recoil into account and will likely switch off of it after a few lives, making this guy's presence a limited edition sight. So there are two types of people who use the G2. Those who combine it with hollow point for a glorified Chris Rector setup, and those who hate it with all their heart but pre-bought it at a lower rank and are basically obligated to use it so they don't feel like they wasted money. You know, Buckshot is strangely not as much of a meme as one would think because it's surprisingly good, especially on the RPK, which in turn has created an entire subgenre of RPK users who made it with Buckshot. But if you see it on anything that isn't the RPK, then they're probably just memeing. But contrary to Buckshot, .366 Slugs is a complete meme and usually only sees use on cursed setups. Alright, no cap, Duplex and Triplex users are low-key terrifying just because of the raw power of these ammo conversions. Seriously, who thought a gun shooting twice or triple the amount of shots at once would be anything but extremely powerful? So if you see somebody using either of these conversions, just know that they religiously main their setup. People who use this are the types of people to make any gun that can two-shot kill do so, no matter the cost. Although they most often run this on the L2A3 and combine it with either the M1911 or M45A1 with hollow point alongside any heavyweight melee in the game. So this is basically the ECR 556 but for the M14 instead, but you know, ever since the 556 on the ECR got nerfed, this has seen surprisingly little usage, considering it's basically just a better version of the ECR 556. However, don't get me wrong here, I'm still not saying you should use this, as again, it's just a slightly better version of the M4A1 for 60 times the price. So there are two types of SOCOM users, those who use it on the ECR and those who use it on the TCR. Those who use it on the ECR are usually just newer players who racked up a high kill count on their ECR and pre-bought this in the process, sadly not noticing the crucial damage decrease. And then there are those who realize that the .45 SOCOM is really close to a direct upgrade for the TCR. In fact, I could make an entire video talking about SOCOM on the TCR. So if you see somebody using this, never challenge them at range because trust me, you'll never beat them there. People who use .410 bore conversions can be split up into two categories. Those who don't use it on the jury, also known as the clueless, and the jury mains. Now jury mains are something else. You almost never really encountered these guys, but those few times where you are playing against a jury main feel like pure hell, which makes their very rare appearance feel like an absolute blessing. Either that, or they run it on the Henry for a Scout TF2 loadout. And now getting into the list of conversions basically no one uses. I mean, I'm sure there are like one of you out there who unironically uses, but I honestly don't know what to say about you people because there really isn't anything specific to point out. People who use the Henry Big Boy are one of a kind. While the name itself is a little deceiving contrary to the user, people who use this are usually just running a cowboy-themed loadout. Now, I haven't seen a whole lot of people using this conversion, mainly because the gun itself is a little irrelevant. But the few that actually do use this usually play like your average Beowulf ECR main, completely obsessed with power but has no sense of recoil control or aim. And with that said, that concludes the first part of ammo stereotypes. Make sure to stay tuned for part 2 by subscribing to the studio with notifications on. But until next time, peace.